Thanks for joining me for today's episode of the FlipNerd Expert Interview Show, which is our 2016 best show of the year on the topic of raising private money. In this episode, I interview my good friend Matt Andrews. Private money isn't as elusive as you may think, and Matt tells us all about it in this episode. Let's jump into the show right now. Matt, welcome to the show, my friend.
Good to be here, man. Good to be here again.
Yeah. Happy to have you back. And for those that are just joining us right now, Matt and I have actually been talking for almost an hour. So every time we get together, we're like chatty Cathys. We just start talking
like
about
a couple of gals. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, hey, we're really excited to have you on the show today, and excited to talk about kind of private lending. I mean, we've had people on the show before that are like syndication attorneys and stuff like that are talking about it. But I think that word sometimes, that phrase private lending sometimes just sounds like it's a scary thing when all it is just like find somebody to loan you money. It's not like, it doesn't have to be this big thing. And I know we're going to talk about a couple of things today, which is kind of what it is. And then ultimately in part 2 of the show, the Taking Action segment, how to talk to private lenders, how to find them. And you're going to share some great tips for how to find those folks. Yeah. I just want to say up front, neither one of us are attorneys. We're both really good looking guys, but you should consult an attorney for the legal side of this. And this is just more of like, hey, if you got that legal stuff taken care of, then this is how you kind of go do those things, how you block and tackle to kind of make it happen. Because ultimately,
more the marketing side of it, and the positioning side of it. Sure.
Yeah. So Matt, I know you're world renowned and well known, but for those that maybe don't know you or need to be reintroduced, why don't you take a couple minutes and just tell us more about who you are?
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I appreciate it. Well, thank you again for having me here. Love you guys. Love FlipNerd. Just love all the awesome information. And I've told you this before, Mike, and I've thanked you for this before. But I learn a ton from listening to your podcast, and there are so many people and so many experts you bring on in so many different niches that I don't know about. So for me, FlipNerd is a little bit of like an idea incubator for me, So seeing, the more I can see what other people are doing, the better we all are, right? So
I appreciate that. Truthfully, and you obviously you've had a podcast and done a number of things before, so it's the same way for me. When I started doing this, I thought I kind of knew a lot, but you start to realize how little you know when you start to talk to a lot of other people, right?
Sure. And there's certain things you think you're good at, and then you meet somebody who's really good at it, and you're like, oh man, I got to up my game,
Absolutely.
So that's why we do this, right? So I very much appreciate you having me back again. Yep. And private lenders is something that I've been utilizing in my business for, quite a few years, but in the last couple of years and even more so in the last probably 6-8 months, we've really been dialing in, how do we find the ideal private lender, and how do we position ourselves so that it's not just, hey, give us money so we can use it for real estate deals. It's more like, hey, I've got an opportunity here for you that you wouldn't have, or you wouldn't even know about if I wasn't offering it to you, you know? So, there are so many people out there, and, I'm sure you're invested in other things besides real estate, right? You probably have some stocks and maybe some CDs, and everybody has all these different investment vehicles. And what's a CD making these days? I haven't even looked lately, but
who knows?
0%.
Less than 1%, probably. Yeah, at
the best, 1.5. Like something that would overperform would be like a 2% or something like that. So there are so many people out there, and the mutual funds underperforming, and just all these different vehicles, that when you can offer someone an opportunity, an intelligent person an opportunity to make a double-digit return on something with no risk or with minimal risk to them, that's going to get people's attention, right? So positioning ourselves from, changing the position and shifting the paradigm from, can you give us money? Please, somebody lend me money because I need money, which is not a position of power, to, hey, I've got so many great deals and so many opportunities coming at me that I need more funds to put to use. I need more funds to deploy. And those are the kind of terminologies we use. I need to deploy more capital. And so I wanted to offer you this opportunity. That kind of positioning, that kind of language is magic to the ears of a smart investor who could be a private lender for you. And it could be anybody, know?
Absolutely.
You've worked with tons of private lenders, and I'm sure you've had some that have come from sources that you never thought they'd come from, right? So you don't know where these people are going to come from, and being open to, and then starting to create a process for qualifying, bringing them in, explaining them the opportunity, and then you choosing who you want to work with as a lender. That's the way it should be, because we're real estate investors, man. We know how to make money in real estate. Most people don't, and that's a benefit to other people.
Yeah, I think we sometimes forget about the fact that a lot of people want to do what we do, but they're never going to do it, and it's a way for them to kind of participate. So, hey Matt, let's take just a minute, and probably you forgot to introduce yourself, man. Who are you? Who is this guy that's been talking now? Who is he?
Who is this guy? Yeah, sorry guys. My name's Matt Andrews. I am Mike Hambright's big brother. No, just kidding. Matt Andrews. I live in Tampa, Florida. I've been flipping, wholesaling, rehabbing since 2000. My business exploded during the horrible years of 2008, 2009, 2010. That's when my wholesale business really blew up. Yeah. In a good way. Started selling to a lot of international investors, started creating a lot of turnkey properties, started creating and selling packages of properties, so kind of like super wholesaling packages. And really through that, started looking at other markets. A few years ago, moved into Michigan, and over the last couple of years now, Indiana, Ohio, some of those Midwest markets to do the same kind of thing. So I think we're in 5 markets now. Flip, wholesale, rehab, and all those markets. We have an education company too, which is Real Estate Freedom. So do a lot of wholesale training and a lot of curriculums and educational programs and certifications and that type of thing there. And really, and this, Mike, and maybe for anybody that might have seen the previous podcast I did with you guys, everything we do in real estate, we try to make it as virtual as possible. We try to make, in fact, we've very much gone after creating a process by which we don't need to physically be anywhere at any time and can handle everything through DocuSign and all these other just great tools that we have today. And so the last, 3, 4, 5 years have really been, everything is to get to that point, and we love to travel. My wife and I, as you know, and as you've been a contributor to some of our charities in Jamaica and India, we love to travel. That's what makes us feel good. We love to help people. We like to do outreach work. And the cool thing is with what we have today, I can be in India working with children in one of our homes, and could literally be flipping a property back in Florida or Michigan. Yeah.
It's pretty incredible.
Overseeing a team, that's in place there. And I'm just glad it's 2016 and this is when I was born, I couldn't do this in 1898.
No, you definitely are inspiring with as much as you guys do. And I think, definitely one of those guys that practice what they preach. Anyway, glad you're here. Well,
if it all comes down to one word, and you and I have talked about this before, it's freedom, right? Yeah. That's what we work for. If you're working for money, you're going to get it eventually. Then you're not going to know what to work for. If you're doing things right. So you got to have something behind that desire for money and finances that really fuels what you do. And first and foremost, it's freedom. And with that freedom, then comes responsibility. What do you do with freedom you've established? Well, if you think like I think, and like I know you think, it's how do we help other people? How do we enrich other people's lives? And then how do we make business and outreach and all that stuff? How do we make that all one big thing that feeds into each other? So
Absolutely.
I guess that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah. Well, hey, it's a great way to transition to talk about part of the way you get that freedom, part of the way that you can justify spending the resources and the effort and stuff to kind of build processes and be more virtual is if you can actually fund deals, right? So kind of jump right back into the private lending stuff here.
Absolutely.
But let's just talk about. I think a lot of people realize. I think where we left off was a lot of people don't realize that, hey, maybe the guy next door or the person that I work with or the person that I even a friend or a family member that you just never addressed it with, you don't really realize that they, I think more than ever right now, I think people are dismayed with the stock market. I think there was this time where people I want to invest in things I know. And I think most people realize now that it just seems like a big shell game. There's so much financial engineering going on. And even if I know that company, like Starbucks or Nike or whatever, you don't have any idea what's going on to drive the financials in that company. And I think people, because of maybe the TV shows and podcasts or other things, people want to be a part of it, even if it's not actually getting their hands dirty and doing actual deals. It's I could fund deals. And I think until you kind of introduce that to people, they maybe don't even know that is a thing, right?
Absolutely. And yeah, most people and we'll talk about this a little bit more later, but most people that become good private lenders for us, and especially over the last couple of years that have become trusted, awesome lending partners for us, never thought of themselves that way before.
Right.
And they certainly weren't coming to me saying, let me be your private lender, because they didn't even know that was an opportunity, right? Like you said, it could be your next door neighbor. It could be, you're at the swim lessons, with the kids, and there's other parents there. I mean, you just don't know.
Yeah.
So, how do you find those people? Well, you got to be bold, and you got to ask, and you got to talk to people, right? And you got to put it out there. And I'm not saying, hand a card out to everybody that says, want to be my private lender? That's cheesy and chintzy. That's not the way you do it. But you do. You
don't just post it on Facebook to say, anybody looking for double-digit returns?
Yeah, exactly. You don't do a cattle call. It's more like an invitation, an opportunity that you're presenting, right? And that you haven't just asked anybody or wouldn't just let anybody do this, right? So a lot of it just happens, it's in all of business, in all of real estate, so much of it, and I've thought about this so much lately, it's just asking questions. It's just being bold. It's just, because what's the worst someone can say when you ask for something? No.
Say no, yeah.
Okay, well, that's not that bad. You move on with your life, right? But we sometimes think, I'm not going to ask it. And we build this fear around asking somebody to go into business with us or be a private lender, or asking a cash buyer to buy a property from us, or asking a realtor to do this kind of work with, or whatever it is.
Right.
We're sometimes afraid to be bold. And the way I get over that is think about what the worst case scenario is. If you need this realtor to do this for you, or you want this realtor to do this, and you ask him to do that, what's the worst he can say? No, right? Your family's still alive. You didn't lose any money. You just got to know. You can move on with your life, right?
Absolutely.
And every no you gets you closer to that yes. So it's just asking. And I told you I was going to tell a story from when I was like 5 or 6 years old. But this is when I first started. I look back now, and I was taught this concept. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was at we were just talking about Clearwater Beach before the show.
Yep.
It was at Clearwater Beach, and it was like a beach area. There was like a beach.
And you were raising money? You were 5 years old? You were raising money?
I was raising money, yeah. You'll see where I'm going with this. So I'm there with my family. There's a pool, there's the ocean and stuff, and it was kind of a public area, and there was like a tiki bar, like one of those like tiki bar or whatever, like on the beach, music blaring and stuff. And I'm like, I think I'm 5, maybe 6 years old. And I started seeing those little mini umbrellas that they put in drinks, right? So and I'd never seen those before, cocktails, like these little miniature umbrellas. And I thought, those are super cool, 5 years old, super cool little umbrellas. I want one of those umbrellas, And somebody told me, I forget who it was, maybe one of the adults that my parents were with, you only get that if you buy a drink or whatever. And my uncle, I think it was, says, go ask the bartender for one. He'll probably give you one. So I go over to him and I'm like, excuse me. I'm like over the bar, I'm like, excuse me, can I have one of those umbrellas, please? And he kind of looks down at me. He's like, yeah, sure. So he gives me an umbrella. I think it's the greatest thing in the world. I'm sitting there playing with this little, I got the beach, I got the ocean, but I'm playing with this little mini umbrella.
Right.
And I'm like, I got to get another one. One umbrella's not enough. I got to get another one. So I go back to him. Can I have another umbrella? So he gives me another one. Well, at 5 years old, what's better than 2 umbrellas?
Yeah, 3
umbrellas, right? So I go back to him 5 times, right? I've now got 5 umbrellas. The 6th time I go back to him, I'm like, can I have one more umbrella? He reaches under the bar. He pulls out the entire cup of umbrellas. There's like 100 of them.
Yeah.
And he just says, here.
Yeah, don't come back.
Umbrellas. That was it, dude. I was ruined. I was like, all you have to do is ask.
Yeah.
If you ask the right questions, and for him, it was just being persistent, right? But I look back on that now, and I thought, I used that a lot, again, throughout my life. It's just being bold. And as silly as a story as that is, it's true, right?
Yeah.
You ask the questions. You're not afraid. What's the worst that bartender could have said? No, kid, go away. You're bugging me. I would have moved on with my life. Never would have thought about it again. But what I learned was keep asking, and you're going to get the entire tub of umbrellas.
Yeah, I know some people, their strategy is, I've talked to some other folks in terms of raising private money, and sometimes they position it, it's not so much a fear of like, I don't want to ask you directly, but they're a little more indirect. Like, hey, I'm a real estate investor. I've bought, quite a few houses, and, basically position it as, we may have an opportunity to bring a new private lender on. Do you know anybody that'd be interested? And kind of not, you're not asking the person directly, like, do you know anybody in your network? Now that could do 2 things. One, it could force them. Sometimes it's like, well, why didn't you ask me? Yeah, I'm interested. They kind of like, it's like almost like a scarcity tactic. Like,
yeah,
I'm interested in anybody other than you. And you're like, no, I'm interested. But sometimes if they're not interested, they're like, you know what? I know somebody else that you might consider asking. So could open up some new doors for you potentially.
I think that's a great idea. And you ask every person that, a lot of people are going to be like, well, yeah, what about this guy, like that you didn't ask. So yeah, I think that's a great way to do it. And even if they aren't that person, say, well, who do you know that would? Get lists from people, and say, hey, there's, might be a little referral fee in there for you. There's different ways to incentivize people to bring you people that might be like that too. And that's just one of many ways and many places. And but obviously the first most natural place to look is right there in your own sphere of influence. You might have everybody you need right around you already, but you haven't asked the right questions, or you haven't asked the right question enough to get the tub of umbrellas, right? So
right.
That's the way it works. So
Matt, we're going to jump into the taking action here in just a minute, where we're going. I know you're going to share more about how you where to find them. I mean, you've got some. We talked a little bit beforehand. You've got some great tips for that. Yeah. So before we jump into that, though, I wanted to share. We've got a question. I purposely did not tell you what it was, but we've got a question for somebody off of Twitter that asked. I knew this would be a great question for you. What are the pros and cons? This is a totally different subject here. Pros and cons of working with your spouse as an investor, which you do.
That's a good question, man.
Yeah.
Okay, how can I answer this that won't get me in trouble with my wife?
Yeah, let's pretend like she's not going to listen to this and just let it all fly, man. No.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, obviously there's an extra layer when it's a husband, wife, or, even like a family member, that's a partner or something like that. It's different than just a traditional business partner. There's an extra layer there, but the principles to me are the same. It's first finding out, do you have complementary skills? Just because you're married doesn't mean you should be working together. So I think assessing that first, and then if you agree, okay, we have some complementary skills here, then it's figuring out how to get in that lane and stay in that lane. For me, I really, I guess I should say I misassessed that when Lindsay first became part of our company, right? Because I was a marketer and I made videos and my face is out there, and that's how we sold properties, was kind of selling, hey, I'm the investor in this Tampa Bay area. Starting out, I marketed myself, you know. Lindsay hates that. She hates being in front of the camera.
Yeah.
Hates being on video. And I mean, in the first few years of our business, I had HGTV coming and shooting demo reels in my home market of Tampa, and Lindsay's on camera. The worst, I mean, she's great on camera, but she hates it, right?
Yeah, right.
I had her in the wrong lane. It was the exact wrong place for her to be, and I was trying to kind of make her, I thought, okay, she's kind of like me. She'll be the other half of this marketing side or whatever. Marketing's not her thing. So early on, and well, not as early as I should have figured it out probably, but after a couple years of trying to fit square peg in a round hole, she said, I hate this being out front stuff. It's just not me. I love you doing it. You're great at it, but this is not right for me. And what Lindsay's good at is organizational structure, accounting processes, she's great at hiring. She's not as good at firing. I guess I have to come in and do that, but she's great at creating a framework. She's great at training people. She trains our accountants, to do the processes that we need. So she is she's not that type A personality who's all over the place like me. She's the organized one. So once we figured out those lanes and really said, look, this is what you're going to do because this is what you're good at. This is what I'm going to do because this is what I'm good at. It's then about, okay, now what do we both kind of stink at? And what do we both, what should neither of us be doing? Or what are we both miserable doing? And a lot of that was some process stuff that we hired out to some in-house assistants, some virtual assistants, some virtual accountants. That, I mean, there are so many resources out there just on Elance, just Elance alone.
Right, absolutely.
It's so much done. So it's kind of like, what do I hate that's left that I can outsource, And so I think that was it, getting each other in the right spots. For me, it was listening to her, so I knew that she was in the wrong spot, and then filling in the gaps that you don't have. And I think where a lot of people get in trouble is they both think they have to do everything, or it's a husband and wife team that they both have to be meeting with the contractors, or they both have to be picking out colors. There's very little that Lindsay and I in our business do redundantly.
Right. You need to divide and conquer. Right.
Very little that we do together because we're not good at the same thing. So it's kind of a long answer, but
literally, I think I would have answered it almost the exact same way. My wife also named Lindsay. She's great on the operating side, and I think it's real important to identify what your roles and responsibilities are. And I think you said a great thing that really took me a long time to kind of pick up on too, was I just kind of assumed, well, she's good. There's some stuff that like she's good at, but she just hates doing it. Right. And so it was like, I was kind of like almost like forcing her to do it because I didn't want to do it. Right. And I thought, well, you're good at that, without thinking like, do you like that? And you just got to find those things that you really don't like doing and find another way to get them done. Otherwise, it's easy to start to get this friction between I'm doing the crap and you're doing the fun stuff,
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly. And Lindsay likes doing the stuff that I think is kind of crap, right? But she likes the organizational structure. She likes list making and, checking off stuff off the list and processes and scheduling and calendar, just making sure the calendar's set the right way and just all that stuff that if I didn't have her, the business would be probably half as successful as it was, because it would still make money, but it would be very, very inefficient. So
absolutely.
That's the piece of it for me. And then the outsourcing piece is huge. I mean, the outsourcing piece probably saved our marriage because we stopped trying to make each other do things that we should.
That's right.
Business doing.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And focus on the important things.
Yep. Well, hey, we're about to jump into the part 2 Taking Action segment, and talk about how to find private lenders and how to talk to them. Just all the places that I know you've got some great tips you're going to share.
Yeah,
so why don't we go ahead and let's just jump right into the Taking Action segment, and talk about how to find private lenders and how to talk to them. Just all the places that I know you've got some great tips you're going to share.
Yeah,
so why don't we go ahead and let's just jump right into the Taking Action segment.
All right.
Go ahead, Matt. Lead us through this down this path.
Take action. Well, I mean, you guys all know what private lending is, I'm sure. I mean, it's really any private source of funding that you're using for your business, right? I mean, it's not a terribly hard concept to understand. So why do you need private lending? For starters, you need it to scale up. If you're using your own money to buy and sell properties and you want to do more than you're doing, but you don't have any more money, well, how are you going to scale it up? Obviously, that's where private lenders come in. It's also a great benefit once you start using private lenders yourself. There are a lot of options that you have to offer lending possibly to other people or to hook up private lenders with buyers in some cases too. Maybe you're selling to a buyer who needs a private lender. So it's just another benefit that you can bring to your cash or to your investor buyers. And it sometimes will facilitate the deal or be the difference between having that deal or not, right? So it just gives you more options, allows you to scale it up. Like you said, it could be anybody in your sphere of influence, right? It could be anyone. So what does a good private lender look like? And I went after some of the wrong ones early on in my business, and that's why I know what I think a good one is now. And if I boiled it down to one thing, here's probably the one thing that when I look back at the people that I've had these relationships with that have been good private lenders for me, the one thing that I can say about all of them is they were somebody who took the time to understand what I did, but they didn't want to do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, they got it. They were smart enough to conceptually understand that they could probably go into the real estate business too. When I first started doing private lending or having private lenders come into my business, I was buying a lot at the auction, right? These guys knew the auction existed. These guys knew that they could go down there every day and bid if they wanted to. They knew the process or had a periphery understanding of it. They just knew they didn't want to do it. They sold a software company, or they're in this business, or they're over here in this business, or something totally unrelated. They got my business, and they could have probably built one like that themselves. They didn't want to.
Right.
That was the key characteristic of all of them. And so other real estate investors that do exactly what you do, not always the best lenders, right? You want somebody who understands it but doesn't want to do it, right? And that's the difference between somebody who will kind of be part of your business and somebody who will get, as we say, up in your business, right?
Yeah.
You don't need somebody to get all up in your business, right?
Yeah.
And so a good private lender doesn't want to micromanage you. You know, a good private lender doesn't want to know all the minutia. They want to know what's the end result. What's the term? What's the rate? What's the end result? Right. So they're driven by the end result, not how do all these little moving pieces work? You know?
Right. And that's the benefit for them as a lender. It's like, hey, you ultimately are you truly are an investor at that point. You're not getting your hands dirty. You don't have to deal with permit issues or deals falling through or all these things. You can truly just be for the most part pretty passive, right?
Passive, and that's the key word, and that's what most good private lenders will want to do. Is they want to make their money work for them. And like I said, most of them have made their money. Most of my best lenders have made their money elsewhere, right? Not in real estate. They're smart business people, but they made their money elsewhere. And they see the benefit. They know they're not making money in their mutual funds or their CDs. So that's one of the biggest characteristics. And then, after that, you've got to create your marketing plan. Really, how are you going to go after these people? Where do you find them? How do you bring in leads for private lenders? And like you said, they could be anywhere. It could be your next door neighbor. But here are the ones that, and this is really, probably the real nitty gritty. Here are the sources that I find the best private lenders. Number one has been and will always be the one you already mentioned, networking. Talking to people, asking questions, those great leading questions like you asked, like, hey, look, I've actually got an opportunity that I can probably bring on another 2 or 3 private lenders. You know anybody who'd be interested in making double-digit returns on properties like this, or on loans secured by properties? Yeah, Mike, me. Hello, your next door neighbor, right?
What am I, chopped liver?
Right, exactly. And so that's a great way to frame it, and a great way to bring them to you without saying, will you lend me money, right? So that's one place. The next, probably the best for us, the best out of all of them, is taking my existing buyers and converting them into private lenders, okay? If I was going to choose a percentage, and by the way, 78.6% of all statistics are made up on the spot. So I'm going to say, the top 5% of your cash buyers.
Yeah, these are people you typically wholesale to, right?
From your people that you wholesale to, absolutely. Or people that you've sold turnkey properties to, or anything. That have liquid capital that you've sold to, that you have a relationship with. And if for those of you that have been in the business for a while, who the pain in the necks are, and who the easy people to work with are. Hey, I got this fantastic property. I'm gonna call Mary because Mary's super easy to work with. I'm gonna give her the first shot. Joe would probably buy it too, but Joe is such a pain in the neck, right? So you're looking for the Marys, the buyers who have bought from you before, the buyers who have been easy to work with, the buyers who they're not pushovers because they're smart people, but they let you do your thing. And, they have confidence in the process and they see the end result. Those are the kind of people that we look for. So let's say the top 5% of your buyers, and then you offer them an opportunity. Very much like you just said, but the way I've done it a lot, and this has been probably one of the best things that we've done, especially in the past year, is sending out a message to a pre-selected group of cash buyers. And, hey, you've bought some properties from me before. We've enjoyed working with you. I have just fired a couple of my institutional lenders that I've been working with for a while, which is almost always usually true. I'm almost always firing some bank that I'm not going to do business with anymore, right? So that's almost always something you can claim, with validity. I'm not working with this bank or that bank anymore, and I'm going to offer the opportunity that I was given to those lending institutions to a select few of my VIP buyers. That's why you're receiving this email, because I have an opportunity right now to actually be a private lender, to be let on the inside of my business, become a private lender and fund some of these projects to get passive income. And when you can, when I send out a message like that, I say, I've done this with, I did this recently with so-and-so, and I'll even kind of put like what we call kind of a light testimonial in there. We did this with one of our VIP members in our mastermind last week, and here's how it kind of worked, and John was very, very happy about not doing anything other than letting the money work for him and getting paid in 3 months or 6 months or whatever it was.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that conversion, you've already got, if you guys have a buyer's list, everyone listening right now, you've already worked to build that buyer's list. Well, you've already got your beginning list to start looking for private lenders, right? Those are investors looking for a return. And if it's a return on paper secured by real estate instead of an actual rental return, many times that's great for them and it's less work for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think the idea of kind of testimonials, or here's who I've worked with, is powerful. And truthfully, this is not to say that you can't do this if you're brand new, but this gets easier when you've done some deals, right? Because you can go back and say, I mean, especially for guys like you or me, like we've done hundreds of deals. Yeah. And you can actually show, I know even with a bank, early on when I was trying to get my foot in the door with the bank, we created this little like kind of flip book of examples of deals we've done, what we paid for it, how much we put into it, the date we bought it, the date we sold it. And we could kind of prove, the question was always like, how did you buy it for that? Or wow, they can visualize what it is you're trying to do. And that changed everything. I think it goes from kind of a concept to these are real examples of like pictures of before and after and how the numbers worked out. And I think, along with testimonials, I mean, it's really kind of a testimonial of your experience as well. All those things are powerful.
Absolutely. And I always try to think, I always have that kind of the words in my mind, set a clear path. So if you're offering an opportunity for lending, just like the same as if you're offering an opportunity to buy a wholesale property from you, you are providing that person with a clear path of how this turns out. And you do that through testimonials. You do that through, hey, here's how we did it before. Or you do it, if you haven't done it before, you do it with just showing how completely competent you are, knowing the numbers on a deal, knowing how it works, showing comps. Even if you can't show comps of other properties you did, show comps of other properties that fit that same profile. So that's something really important for, some of you that might be just beginning or maybe have never done a private lender type scenario before, is to say, hey, look, here's some wholesale deals we've done. Here are the numbers on those deals, or here's some pictures, here's some numbers. Maybe even I like the idea of a flip. I'm going to use that. It's a great idea. Just a light, nice, easy 10-page kind of flip thing. Like here's a scenario.
Yeah, we just created it in PowerPoint. It was
like just almost like a mini prospectus, just to show them that clear path and say, here's what's possible, and you give them that clear path, and then you kind of let them sell themselves on it. It's not a hard sale if you're talking to the right people.
Right.
So that's been absolutely huge for us. That's without a doubt been number one, the best thing. And I kind of put networking and using your existing network, that's all in one. So first and foremost is networking and using your existing contacts, your existing group of buyers. And if you've built your buyers list for a while, you may not need to go any further than that. You may not need to do any more marketing than just that. I don't know how many private lenders you need, but if you do it right and you get the right people, how many do you like? 2 or 3?
Yeah. I mean, it kind of depends on how much money they have to invest, and of course, how much deal flow you're doing, right? But maybe you could talk for a second. You kind of hinted on this a couple minutes ago, but I'm sure that you're going to understand this right when I say it. A lot of people listening will too. It's real easy to go from, because I started in 2008 when the market was kind of tanking. It was hard to find It was hard to find certainly banks that would lend then. But then it gets to a point where, of course, the market got better and improved over time. But I think most people that are trying to raise money, whether it's private money from private investors, banks, anything, you quickly go from, it's hard for me to find lenders to, I could raise far more money than I ever need. And it's interesting. So it sounds like a good problem to have, but it's actually it is a challenge, because if you find a private investor that wants to lend to you, you need to be important to them. You don't want to find somebody that's like, yeah, I'll lend $1 million. And you're like, awesome. Well, hey, I just need 80,000 right now. So can you just stick the rest of it on a shelf there collecting dust for me in case I need it again? And so you want to be able to keep people's money busy, right? I mean, that's why they want to work with you. So maybe talk about that issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's exactly the kind of person you're looking for, somebody who needs their money to work for them. And, we use language like, capital that needs to be deployed, because that's way different than, I got to somehow figure out something to do with this money. I was like, I'm looking for real estate investors who have, this much or more liquid that they need to deploy and get working for them right away. Yeah. Because then you're speaking to the needs of that person, right? Sure. And you're speaking, when you're talking that kind of language, you're speaking to a higher level individual too.
Right. So
setting qualifiers, of what kind of funds they have, and setting some expectations, because you're the one who really in the end, you're the one who decides if you're going to work with them, and that's the way it should be positioned, right? Yeah. So, if like we have it dialed down to, even if we would accept somebody with a couple $100,000, I'm going to say we're really looking for people that have $500,000 or more in liquid capital. We're really only looking for maybe, 2, possibly 3 more partners at this time, but we work with a very small group of people because we want to do residual business over and over again. Right. So if you just want to lend on one property one time, this is probably not the right thing for you. I'm happy to sell you some more wholesale properties, and you can do whatever you want to. You could even offer owner financing when you sell or whatever you want to, if you just want to make 50 grand work for you or something like that. Right. But this opportunity, I can really only offer to people that meet XYZ criteria.
Yep.
And then you put them in the position where they qualify themselves to you, and then you choose them. You know, and when you choose them and you position it as I offered you this opportunity because I chose you as and identified you as somebody that I respect and would let be in business with me. That's so different than can I borrow some money?
Right.
Would you fund? Oh, I need money to fund a deal. And like you said too, now where you're at, you could raise more money than you ever need, right? So it's talking like that too, and not faking it, but creating a how to say this right way, creating the right level of opportunity, you know, and the right level of urgency there, and say, I've got so many great deals coming to me that, man, I've decided I can't let this stuff go because some of the stuff is really, really good. And so I'm going to let a couple of close associates in to be lenders with me so they can take advantage of this and we can do even more deals.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's that type of positioning, and it all goes back to asking the right questions and then positioning that it's an opportunity, not a sale that you're trying to sell them on.
Right, absolutely, yeah. And one of the things that I wanted to hear your thoughts on are if you do raise too much money, like I said, some people I'll work with you, but you need to keep my money busy.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you mentioned a little bit ago, which I know a lot of people do, is they tend to potentially re-lend that money. So, hey, you're going to lend to me hypothetically at 10%. Well, I can't use all the money that you have, and so I'm going to fund some of my deals with it, and then I'm going to lend it out at 14 and 4 or some higher rate where you can essentially make a spread. And of course, you're taking a risk on that, but yeah,
where you basically arbitrage the deal. And I think that's a great point. Is that you say, because it's a benefit you can bring to your buyers that aren't cash buyers,
right?
That are good, serious buyers who know their deal. Maybe they're rehabbers, and I've lent money, especially in the last couple of years in Florida, to a lot of rehabbers. Their process is dialed in, but they constantly need money because they're doing more and more projects, right? So as a private lender myself, I love seeing that track record, from those types of people. So it is, it is finding the people who want that money constantly working for them. And then even if you don't have the property to put it into right then, you can, like you kind of said, arbitrage it, and say, hey, you know what, this buyer over here needs those funds. So I'll kind of connect these two to make that work. And like you said, mark it up or put points on it, or, there's different ways to structure that. Again, we're not lawyers, so I'm not going to talk about the details of that because it's different in different states too. And then the other thing I would think of, and the thing that comes to mind right away, and I know you're geared this way too, is, okay, I got more money coming at me than I've got deals. I don't have other buyers right now that need that money right now. Well, you should already have a relationship with other people that do what you do, maybe not even in your area, So if you came to me right now and said, I got $2 million, I need this to go to work in the next 30 days. Well, guess what? I don't have enough deals in Florida to make that $2 million work for you in the next 30 days.
Yep.
So what am I going to do? I'm going to go to one of my friends and associates in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and we're going to do something there. Or I'm going to go to one of my associates, some friends of ours that we have mutual friends actually up in Columbus or in Cleveland or in Indianapolis, some of the other markets that I'm in, which will arbitrage that money between those people. So too much money to lend is never a problem if you have other people, that you can connect with, or your counterparts in other markets, or even in your own market that you can, like you said, essentially coordinate that effort, mark it up, take a fee, take a marketing fee, take whatever it is, So I think that's a great point for sure. Too much money is it's a great problem to have.
Yeah, it's a first world problem, huh?
Yeah, if you don't know what to do with it, though, it's going to go away, right? Because if somebody wants to lend you $1 million, you're like, oh, I can only do 80. They're going to find out another place to put that money.
Absolutely.
I mean, they're absolutely going to find it. So we talked a little bit about this before, and you're a marketer, so you understand the term avatar. You know, an avatar is this blue guy that lives on another planet in a movie with James Cameron, right? No. So for those of you who kind of don't understand that terminology, avatar in the marketing world is who is your ideal customer, right? What's your ideal avatar, right? So in this situation, we're asking who's the ideal private lender? What's that avatar? What does that person look like? So I'll just tell you, in Florida, you know, here's the characteristics that they fall into with the people that I've lent to the most. And this is not a right or wrong thing. This is just what I've found. They've been usually married for a long time. They're older than 40 years old. They're usually conservative. You know, I'm not here to be political, but they're usually more conservative on the political side. They like to play golf. They love their family. They're usually invested in the stock market. And they have always been successful in something else other than real estate. All right. They might be successful in real estate in some way or shape too, but they had something else either before or currently. My best private lender is a guy who sold a software company and just had millions, needed to do something with it, you know, understood real estate enough to know he didn't want to do it himself. Great private lender.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I know a guy in South Florida that's, you know, is a really sought after, highly paid golf pro. You know, smart enough to flip properties himself, do all that kind of stuff. He doesn't want to do anything but be outside swinging that club, you know. But he's got $500,000 here and there that he needs to put somewhere, right? Perfect private lender. Yeah. So those are the types of people. And then I usually go for $500,000 and up is usually what I would start the conversation at. You can always make an exception and go down, right? You can always say, you know what, I usually do $500,000, but you're the coolest. You're the coolest dude I've ever met, so I'll let you get started with a couple $100,000, you know? And I love doing that too, because then it's like you're doing them a favor. You know, you're doing them a favor to let them only do $200,000 instead of $500,000.
Right.
So that's kind of the ideal. And then of course, like I said, somebody who knows your business but don't want to be in it, somebody who won't micromanage you, somebody who first and foremost is concentrated on the numbers and the end result, not the process. They have confidence that the process works, but they're mostly geared towards, hey, I want to see that return. And obviously you do it once or twice, then they don't even think about it.
Yeah, that changes everything, right? Once you start borrowing money from somebody and they see it come full circle where they can put a deposit back in their account. Now, they may want to relend that right away, but they just see, I got paid. Oh, it works, right? And once they kind of get a taste for, hey, this works, this guy is a good guy to work with, whatever it might be, then people tend to probably want to lend more, right? Or certainly do it again.
Proof of concept. Yeah. Absolutely. It works right. And in fact, most of the time, the best private lenders, you do one or two deals with them, they're going to be like, hey, don't let anybody else do any more deals.
Right. Just use my money.
Let me know, you know, and I really have had, you know, because a couple of times I've had a deal where it's like, oh, I got to pull in some funds for this. So I've called 3 guys in the same hour, left voicemails for 2, you know, talk to 1, and then I'll have 1 come back. No, I wanted to do that one with you. And I'm like, I just got that. Oh man, come on. I had a, you know, and you actually have people mad at you because they're not taking your money.
Right.
And so again, that's why you need those other partners. So you can, okay, you know what? That one's gone, but I'll let you lend on this one over here. Let me call you back in an hour. Then you call your buddy in Columbus and you put it together, whatever it is. So, so absolutely. And then, you know, we've worked a lot on crafting that message to, like, what is it that we say to those lenders? And we kind of touched on this before, but, you know, what I usually say is, look, I've got exclusive bank sources. I'm buying properties at, you know, 50, 60, 70 cents on the dollar. I usually flip these to hedge funds, and I usually, you know, fund them with my own money. But lately, we've had an influx of fantastic properties, and it's created an opportunity. And, you know, it's not an opportunity that I'm going to offer. You're not going to see it on Facebook. I'm not going to send out an email message to thousands of people. It's an opportunity I'm talking to you and 2 other people about. And so tell the story, you know, and Absolutely. We all have a story, and don't make up a story, but tell the story. You know, Here's the opportunity, because if you don't have an opportunity, or you can't articulate the opportunity, or you don't believe enough in the opportunity to show the emotion and convey it to somebody else, then you really shouldn't be trying to get a private lender anyway, because you don't believe in it enough. You know, If you're looking for a lender to lend on something to validate that it's a good property, you're going about it the wrong way.
You
Absolutely. Come to them with a pro forma in hand. That's a no-brainer. The only question then is, can their capital fit into it at that time? And can you make it? And am I going to let you come into it? you know?
Yeah.
So the single biggest thing is, for beginners, especially knowing those numbers, what's the cap rate on this rental property? What are maintenance expenses? What are vacancies? What's it really take to do a punch out in between tenants? What's the vacancy, or what's the maintenance, vacancy, taxes, insurance? If you can give them a sheet of paper and run down the numbers and show your competence like that, that's going to give them the confidence. Or if it's a rehab, showing them 2 other rehabs you did like that, or showing 2 other rehabs done just like that by someone else down the street. But knowing those numbers is the only way to bridge the gap when you don't have testimonials. You've got to show as super competent and understand those numbers, and that's what's going to give them the confidence to lend that money to you.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Hey, I really appreciate you sharing this, and I know, because we talked about this ahead of time, I know we're going a little long here, and you've got a lot of other information to share. And one of the things that I thought was really awesome, and I think people that are listening are going to love this, is that you have this in a presentation that you just recently prepared, right? A lot of this stuff.
Yeah,
and so you had some slides prepared, which we don't show slides on the show here, but you offered to kind of give out your presentation deck and your slides on this very topic to listeners, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we kind of did this on the fly, like a minute before we started the show today. So just to kind of make sure we could record it properly, I put together a link for everybody. So write this down. We'll add it in the show notes as well here, but it's flipnerd.com/private lenders with an S. So all one word, flipnerd.com/private lenders. And if you check that out, that's going to move you over to Matt's site, where he's going to show you how you can download this very same presentation, right, Matt?
Yep, absolutely, man. So yeah, the framework that we kind of talked about today, it really goes down in detail, breaks down those points, helps you kind of identify your marketing message, figure out your avatar for your private lenders. So
yeah, that's great.
It'll be a good slide deck. Be very helpful.
That's a great resource. Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that. So
absolutely.
Any kind of final words? We kind of wrap this thing up, Matt. Any kind of final words of wisdom for folks that are out there that just kind of wrap this all together real fast of what folks can go do from here, and maybe some things that we missed.
Yeah, I don't think it's something we missed, but it's something I want to hit again. And it's something we talked about at the beginning. And I just want to remind you, as silly as the story it is, I want to remind you about the umbrellas, because everything comes from asking, just asking. And so if I was going to leave you with one thought, it would be, whenever you're fearful of something, whenever you're fearful to ask for the buyer to buy, or asking for the prospective, private lender to lend, or asking for the seller to sell, or whatever it is, when you're asking, just remember, you got that fear that might keep you from asking, or asking with confidence, because asking weakly and fearfully is just like not asking at all. If you're not bold and confident in what you're asking for, you're not going to get it. So, the device that I always use is just think about the worst case scenario. What is the absolute, and Tim Ferriss kind of has a whole presentation on this, break down the catastrophic worst case scenario. And in these kinds of situations we're talking about, the catastrophic worst case scenario is not bad. It's a no that gets you closer to the next person that's going to say yes. So no matter what it is, and you can use that in any part of your life, whatever is holding you back, whatever that fear is that's holding you back, just think logically about it. Because when we're fearful, we get crazy. We're not thinking logically. We're not thinking objectively, right? We're putting our own thing into the situation that's not there. So really look at it objectively and think, what do I have to lose here? What's the worst that can happen? Most of the time you're going to find it's not bad, and that's going to give you the confidence to, what? This guy might just say no. I'm going to confidently ask for him to say yes.
Right.
And so that's probably one of the best things, I can teach you. And you want to, you want to get the whole bucket of umbrellas, man.
Yeah. That's awesome, Matt. And in fact, you need to hear no a couple of times, right? I mean, it makes your pitch better, right? You learn, I shouldn't have said that, or there's something that happens that you're like, I need to hone this a little bit better. I mean, that helps you get better the next time around.
I think that's what John Maxwell calls that failing forward. And that's a key terminology. And I mean, that's awesome. So, failure, we're so taught that failure is a bad thing. From the youngest ages of school through college, because we take these tests and we get an A, or we get a B, or in my case, we got C's, or whatever, or whatever, right? But yeah, that's the key, man. I mean, that really is
awesome.
Failing is a good thing, and it gets you closer to succeeding. So.
Well, Matt, thanks for your time today. Thanks for sharing these great lessons with us. And again, give that link one more time. Thank you for sharing this resource. FlipNerd.com/private lenders, plural. FlipNerd.com/private lenders. We'll have a link on the page here. Matt, great to see you, my friend, and definitely appreciate you. I hope you have a great rest of the week.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you guys too, and we'll see you on the next show, man.
Awesome, man. Take care.
All right. Cool.